It was 2:13 in the morning. Again, the room was dark, except for the blue light glowing on his face. Video after video after video. People getting rich. People getting fit. People changing their lives. And him, still lying in the same bed, in the same room, with the same promises he made 3 years ago. He told himself he was relaxing. But deep down, he already knew something was wrong. What he didn't know was that the next 5 years of his life would disappear exactly like this. And the worst part? Nobody noticed it happening. Not even him. Every night, Adrian said the same thing. Tomorrow will be different. Then he would set alarms he never planned to follow. 5 a.m., 5:15 a.m., 5:30 a.m. By morning, all 3 alarms would die beneath his thumb before his eyes even opened. Silence. Then, scrolling again. His phone had become the first thing he touched every morning, and the last thing he saw every night. At first, it didn't seem dangerous. That was the scary part. It looked normal. Everyone scrolled. Everyone wasted time. Everyone watched short videos for a few minutes. But Adrian's few minutes always became hours. Hours became days. And slowly, days became years. He used to be different. At 16, he had notebooks filled with plans, business ideas, workout routines, study goals. The first page always looked beautiful. Clean handwriting, motivational quotes, perfect schedules. But by the second week, everything changed. The notebooks ended up under his bed. The routines disappeared, the motivation faded, and every failure made him trust himself a little less. That's how it starts, not with one massive failure, but with tiny, broken promises repeated every day. One afternoon, his mother opened his bedroom door, quietly. Adrian quickly locked his phone. Too quickly, she noticed. Of course she noticed. Parents always notice more than they say. "You've been in this room all day," she said softly. "I'm studying." The lie came out automatically. She looked around the room. The untouched books, the closed laptop, the empty snack wrappers beside the bed. For a second, she looked like she wanted to say something else. Something honest. Something painful. But instead, she just nodded slowly and left. That hurt more, because disappointment is quieter than anger. And somehow, quieter things stay in your head longer. That night, Adrian couldn't focus on the videos anymore. His mother's face kept replaying in his mind. Not angry, just tired. He hated that look. So he did what he always did when uncomfortable feelings appeared. He escaped. More scrolling, more noise, more distraction. Because silence forced him to think. And thinking scared him. The strange thing about dopamine addiction is that it doesn't feel dangerous while it's happening. It feels comfortable, safe, warm. Like hiding from the world inside a glowing screen. Whenever life became stressful, scrolling helped him disappear. Exams. Scroll. Lonely. Scroll. Anxious about the future. Scroll. Feeling like a failure. Scroll harder. His brain stopped chasing progress. It started chasing stimulation. And slowly, real life began feeling too slow to enjoy. Weeks passed. Then months. Then another year disappeared. Adrian watched his classmates move forward through tiny glowing rectangles in his hand. New apartments, graduation photos, gym transformations, relationships, careers. Everyone seemed to be becoming someone, while he stayed exactly where he was, watching, always watching, never moving. One evening, he met his old school friend Marcus at a small coffee shop downtown. Marcus looked different, not richer, not more handsome, just sharper, like someone who had direction. The conversation started normally. Small talk, fake smiles. Been a while, but then Marcus asked the question Adrian secretly feared. "So, what have you been working on lately?" Adrian froze. His mind went blank, because the truth sounded embarrassing even inside his own head. What had he been working on? He almost said. Just figuring things out. But even that felt dishonest now. Marcus waited politely. Adrian looked down at his coffee. "I don't know," he admitted quietly. And for the first time in years, he heard how defeated he sounded. That night hit him harder than he expected. He walked home slowly through cold streets filled with people moving somewhere. Everyone seemed in motion. Except him. A bus passed beside him. Inside, people looked exhausted after work. But suddenly, he envied them. At least they were building something. At least they were tired for a reason. Adrian was exhausted too, but his exhaustion came from escaping life, not living it. And somehow, That realization hurt more than failure itself. When he got home, he opened social media again automatically, thumb moving from app to app without thinking. Then he stopped. A memory notification appeared on his screen. 5 years ago today. He tapped it. A photo appeared. 16-year-old Adrian, smiling beside his desk. Notebook open, goals written everywhere, eyes full of energy. Under the photo, he had typed, "Future me will be proud." Adrian stared at the screen for a long time. Then he looked around his room. Nothing had changed. Same walls, same habits, same excuses. 5 years, gone. And suddenly, he couldn't breathe properly. Adrian sat on the edge of his bed, staring at that old photo, while the room felt strangely quiet. Not peaceful, heavy, like reality had finally entered the room after years of waiting outside. His chest tightened. 5 years. 5 entire years. And he had almost nothing to show for them. No discipline, no direction, no real progress. Just consumed content, saved videos, unfinished plans. He dropped the phone onto the bed and covered his face with both hands. For the first time in a long time, he let himself feel it. The regret, the embarrassment, the anger, not at the internet, at himself. Most people think procrastination is laziness. It's not. Sometimes it's fear wearing comfortable clothes, fear of trying seriously, fear of failing publicly, fear of discovering you're not as capable as you hoped. Scrolling became Adrian's hiding place, because if he never fully tried, he never had to fully fail. But now, life was moving forward anyway, and it wasn't waiting for him anymore. The next morning, he did something dramatic. He deleted every social media app from his phone. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everything. Then he sat back like someone who had just changed his life. For the first few hours, he actually felt powerful, focused, free. Until evening came. That's when the silence arrived. No stimulation, no constant noise, no escape. Just him alone with his thoughts. And suddenly, the room felt unbearable. He kept unlocking his phone without thinking, opening empty spaces where apps used to be. His fingers searched automatically, like his brain didn't know how to exist without distraction anymore. That scared him, more than he expected. 3 days later, he reinstalled everything, every app, every distraction. And that night, he scrolled even longer than before. Because now, shame had joined the cycle. I can't even quit properly. That sentence stayed in his head for hours. He wanted discipline, but wanting discipline and building discipline were two completely different things. And Adrian still didn't understand the real problem. A week later, his father knocked on his door. "You coming to dinner? In a minute?" But he didn't go. He stayed in bed, scrolling mindlessly while videos blurred together. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Then he heard plates being moved in the kitchen, chairs sliding, quiet footsteps. Dinner was over. Something about that moment broke him a little. Not because anyone yelled. Nobody did. That was the painful part. His family had slowly stopped expecting him to show up. That night became the memory he would never forget. He walked into the kitchen after everyone had gone to sleep. One plate sat on the table, covered with foil, cold, waiting for him. The house was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. Adrian stood there alone, staring at that untouched dinner, while guilt crawled through his chest. Not dramatic guilt, the quiet kind. The kind that changes how you see yourself. He realized something terrifying in that moment. His habits weren't only destroying his future, they were slowly disconnecting him from life itself, from people, from time, from himself. Comfort quietly became his prison. The next morning, he didn't wake up motivated. Nothing magical happened. No dramatic transformation. He still felt tired, still distracted, still ashamed. But something small had changed. For once, he stopped waiting to feel ready. Instead of planning a perfect new life, he made one simple decision. He placed his phone across the room before sleeping. That was it. No giant speech, no motivational music, no impossible schedule, just distance. Because he finally understood something important. The phone wasn't controlling him. His impulses were. The first night felt horrible. He kept reaching beside his pillow automatically. Nothing there. His brain became restless. He stared at the ceiling, feeling uncomfortable in his own skin. And that's when he discovered the truth. The scrolling was never the real addiction. Avoidance was. The phone was just the easiest escape available. Without it, all the emotions he buried for years started surfacing. Fear, loneliness, regret, future anxiety. He wanted to grab the phone again immediately, but he didn't. Not that night. The next morning, He sat at his desk for the first focused study session he'd done in months. 30 minutes. That was the goal. Not 5 hours. Not changing his life. Just 30 minutes. At minute 3, he reached for his phone instinctively. At minute 7, he felt restless. At minute 12, his brain begged for stimulation. But he stayed. Barely. And honestly, the session wasn't impressive. He didn't become productive overnight. Half the time, he just stared at the page, trying not to quit. But when the timer ended, something unfamiliar appeared inside him. Self-respect. Tiny, fragile, but real. That became his system. Not motivation, repetition. Some days he failed completely. Some nights he relapsed and scrolled for hours again. And every relapse made him feel like nothing had changed. But this time, he kept restarting. That was new. Old Adrian used failure as proof to quit. Now he treated failure like part of the process. And slowly, very slowly, his life began moving again. Weeks later, his room started looking different. The desk became cleaner. The notebooks reopened. The alarms stopped being ignored. Small habits. Tiny victories. But small habits decide silent destinies. One afternoon, his mother walked past his room and paused. Adrian was studying quietly at his desk. Phone face down. Notebook open. Headphones off. For a second, she just stood there watching silently. Then she smiled. A small smile. But real. And somehow, that tiny moment meant more to him than motivation ever did. The hardest part wasn't starting. It was continuing after the excitement disappeared. Because after a few weeks, nobody clapped for him anymore. There were no dramatic results. No overnight success. No sudden transformation montage. Just ordinary days. Quiet mornings. Boring routines. Repeated effort. And honestly, that almost made him quit again. One rainy afternoon, Adrian sat alone at his desk, staring at unfinished work, while notifications lit up his phone screen. Friends, hanging out, funny videos, new trends, easy dopamine. His brain whispered the same dangerous sentence. You deserve a break. That sentence had destroyed years of his life. Because the break never stayed a break. It became another lost night, then another lost week, then another lost year. Adrian picked up the phone slowly. His thumb hovered over the app. For a moment, the old version of himself almost returned. Then he noticed something strange. The urge wasn't physical, it was emotional. He didn't actually want entertainment. He wanted relief. Relief from discomfort. Relief from effort. Relief from uncertainty. And suddenly, he saw the pattern clearly for the first time. Every scroll was an escape from becoming the person he needed to become. He placed the phone back down. Not perfectly, not confidently, just intentionally. Then he opened the notebook again. That small moment changed more than he realized. Because discipline is rarely one giant heroic decision. Usually, it's one quiet decision nobody sees, again and again and again. Months passed. Slowly, Adrian started rebuilding parts of himself he thought were gone forever. His attention span improved. His sleep improved. His confidence returned, little by little. Not because life became easier. Because he stopped running every time life became uncomfortable. That changed everything. One evening, Marcus called him unexpectedly. You still free tomorrow? For what? There's a small business meet downtown. Thought you might want to come. Months ago, Adrian would have made excuses immediately. Too tired. Too awkward. Maybe next time. But this time, he paused. Then said something simple. Yeah, I'll come. Even that felt like progress. The meet wasn't magical. Nobody discovered him. Nobody changed his life. But something important happened there. He spoke. Not much. Just a few awkward conversations. A few nervous introductions. But for the first time in years, he felt present in his own life instead of watching everyone else live theirs. And on the walk home that night, he realized something quietly powerful. Confidence doesn't appear before action. It appears because of action. That realization stayed with him. The strange thing about rebuilding your life is that nobody really sees it happening at first. From the outside, Adrian still looked ordinary, still young, still figuring things out. But internally, a war was ending. The constant guilt began fading. The self-hatred became quieter. The fog inside his mind slowly lifted. And for the first time in years, his future no longer felt completely dead. One night, he opened the same old memory photo again. The 16-year-old version of himself smiling beside the notebook. Future me will be proud. This time, Adrian didn't feel panic when he looked at it. He felt sadness, but also understanding. That younger version of him wasn't weak, just lost, just distracted, just escaping pain in the easiest way available. And maybe that's what so many people are doing right now. Maybe they're not lazy either. Maybe they're overwhelmed, lonely, afraid, emotionally exhausted. Maybe the endless scrolling isn't the problem. Maybe it's the hiding place. Adrian looked around his room. Same walls, same desk, same night. But everything felt different now. His phone rested face down beside him. The notebook was open. Outside, rain tapped softly against the window. And for once, the silence didn't scare him anymore, because silence no longer forced him to face a life he was avoiding. Now, it sounded like peace. 5 years didn't destroy him. Staying the same would have. And maybe this story wasn't only about Adrian. Maybe somewhere tonight, someone else is lying in bed scrolling through other people's lives while ignoring their own, thinking they still have time. Maybe you've been fighting the same battle silently. Maybe you've been waiting to feel motivated before changing. But motivation fades. Tiny daily decisions don't. One habit, 1 hour, one uncomfortable choice at a time. That's how people rebuild themselves. Not instantly, gradually, quietly, humanly. If this story felt personal, comment, restart below. And if someone you care about is silently wasting their life trying to escape it, share this story with them. Inner Rise Daily. Heal. Grow. Rise.